The rain came down in cold silver sheets that evening, turning the grand driveway of the Malik mansion into a mirror of glistening puddles. From the shadows, a black SUV rolled in quietly, its headlights off, engine barely humming. Inside sat Zion Malik, a self-made millionaire in his early 30s, known in the business world for his sharp mind and quiet humility. But tonight, it wasn't business that brought him home early from his overseas trip. It was a strange, nagging feeling, the kind that eats at your heart until you can't ignore it anymore. He didn't tell anyone he was coming back. Not his friends, not his fiancée, not even his mother. Something inside him whispered that he needed to see things for himself. As the rain thudded against his windshield, Zion noticed something that froze his hands on the steering wheel. Through the large windows of his mansion, he saw his mother, frail, gray-haired, struggling to keep her balance, clutching a tray of tea. Across from her stood Aisha, his fiancée, dressed in an elegant robe, eyes burning with impatience. The woman who had once smiled softly at his mother during dinners now wore an expression of pure disgust. Zion turned off the car, heart pounding, and stepped into the rain. He crept closer, the sound of Aisha's voice slicing through the downpour. "Why can't you just stay in your room? Old woman," she snapped, her tone dripping with venom. "You embarrass me in front of everyone. I'm not your servant. Do you understand?" His mother, Noor Begum, looked at her with eyes that had known too much kindness to even return anger. "I'm sorry, Beta," she whispered softly. "I just thought you might like some tea. Zion always liked it this way." Aisha's face twisted. "Stop talking about him. Everything in this house is about Zion. His taste, his habits, his mother. I'm sick of it." Then, before Zion could believe what he was seeing, Aisha shoved the tray out of Noor's hands. Cups shattered, tea spilled, and his mother stumbled back, barely catching herself on the arm of the sofa. The sound echoed louder than thunder. Zion's breath hitched. Something inside him snapped. But he didn't storm in, not yet. He stood there in the rain, his jaw clenched, his soul trembling. He wanted to see how far Aisha would go, how deep her cruelty ran. "Pick it up," Aisha yelled, pointing at the shards. "You live here because of me now. Zion would never forgive me if I threw you out, but maybe it's time someone told you your place." Noor, hands trembling, knelt down slowly. Her knees touched the cold marble, and as she picked up the pieces, one small cut opened on her fragile hand. Aisha didn't move to help. Instead, she scrolled through her phone, completely indifferent. And that's when Zion walked in. The front door opened slowly, the creak echoing through the silent hall. Aisha looked up, her smile flickering like a candle caught in wind. "Zion, you're home early." His eyes went straight to his mother. She looked up, startled, then quickly tried to hide her bleeding hand. "Beta, you're home." "I didn't know." Zion's voice was low, almost too calm. "I didn't tell anyone." He walked past Aisha, crouched beside his mother, and gently took her hand. "You're bleeding, Amy," he murmured. "What happened?" Aisha hurried forward, words tumbling. "It was an accident. The tray just..." He looked up slowly. His eyes met hers, and she froze. There was no fire, no shouting, just a cold, terrifying silence. "You dropped the tray?" he asked softly. Aisha nodded too quickly. "Yes, I tried to stop her, but Zion's gaze shifted to the shards still scattered on the floor, then to the small cut on his mother's hand. "Funny," he said quietly. "The security cameras will show us everything." Aisha's face drained of color. Noor tried to intervene, her heart breaking. "Zion, please," she didn't mean, but Zion stood up, his voice still steady. "Amy, you taught me patience. You told me to see the good in people. But sometimes the truth needs to be seen, not assumed." He turned to Aisha. "Pack your things." She stared at him, disbelief turning into fury. "You can't just throw me out like this. I've been with you through everything. You owe me." Zion took a deep breath, glancing at his mother's trembling form. "I owe you nothing," he said simply. "You show me who you are when you thought no one was watching." Aisha's face twisted, tears of rage in her eyes. "You'll regret this. No woman will ever love you like I did." He didn't answer. He just walked to his mother and helped her up gently, his hand firm but kind. "Let's go inside, Amy. You don't need to pick up what she broke." As the front door slammed behind Aisha for the last time, Zion sat with his mother in the quiet living room. She looked at him with eyes full of sorrow and love. "Beta, she wasn't always cruel. Maybe she was scared." He smiled faintly, shaking his head. "Fear doesn't excuse cruelty, Amy. You deserve peace, not pain." For a long moment, they sat together in silence, the sound of rain filling the house like music. And then Noor spoke, her voice soft but wise. "Maybe God wanted you to come home early, Zion. Sometimes we don't understand his timing, but he always knows best." Zion took her hand and kissed it gently. "You're right, Amy. Maybe he brought me home not to end something, but to start over." Months passed. The mansion felt warm again, filled with laughter, family dinners, and the quiet joy of healing. Zion began a new project, a charity home for elderly women abandoned or mistreated by their families. He named it Noor Haven, after the woman whose light never faded even in the darkest storm. And every evening, as the sun set behind the house, Zion would sit beside his mother, watching the golden sky, grateful that he had listened to that small whisper in his heart, the one that told him to come home early, because sometimes coming home at the right moment doesn't just reveal the truth. It saves the love that was quietly waiting all along.